Hey mates, welcome to the Hitout. I'm your host, Phoenix Trinidad. This is an emergency broadcast episode of the Hitout because Simon Goodwin has been sacked as the senior coach of the Melbourne Demons. So this is about 40 minutes of me trying to emotionally process that. 2 weeks ago, we had 40 minutes of me trying to emotionally process the St Kilda loss, and now 2 weeks later, it's this. So I'm joined by Aidan Cellini, as always, and let's get to it. Simon Goodwin has been sacked. Now I have to do an emergency podcast about it and talk about my team and the tenure of Simon Goodwin. But first of all, let's get the news. Tell me all the news.
Yeah, big news day here this Tuesday. Bit unique given the fact that the Demons just won by 83 points over the Eagles. Yes, the Eagles aren't doing flash hot, but yes, it's been confirmed Simon Goodwin has been sacked despite being contracted for next year. According to the president, or interim president anyway, Brad Green, the club is keen to go in a different direction. His legacy still remains as one of, I think it was 3 or 4 premiership coaches at the Demons. Obviously ended that massive 57-year drought in 2021. Still a champion at the club, is still revered, but I think it's more shake hands. It's just not working. I think everyone's seen the demise since that premiership, despite making a couple of finals series in between. But the last 18 months or so has really seen the Demons really fall to a point where it's unsalvageable for Simon Goodwin to continue as coach, and therefore they've made the call.
Okay. You might not know this, but I am a Demons fan.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I'm a big Melbourne fan. I
so.
don't know if I've made it clear. This is it's weirdly conflicting. I think it is ultimately it's the right decision. But on that decision, so the decision was led by Brad Green, but we don't even have a CEO at the moment. So, but apparently the incoming CEO was not a fan of Simon Goodwin. Is that right?
I think there's murmurs of that, yeah.
Okay, right.
But I think it's more that just the stability of the club and the direction it wants to head in. Goodwin's been there since 2017. He's obviously tasted the ultimate success, but just given where the club has been the last few years, especially off field with reviews and players wanting out and injury sagas obviously relating to and referencing Petrarca, it just seems like it was always leading one way. And as well as that, the on-field performances weren't marrying up nicely too. So it kind of did come to a conclusion. But 3 weeks out from the end of the year, and it's effective immediately. I should have said that. It's effective immediately. So you got Troy Chaplin, assistant coach. He's going to fill in as the caretaker for the last 2 weeks.
Oh,
so he might get a look. I think he's been at the club for quite a while.
Yeah.
As well. Obviously, liked there, and he's going to be given the reins the next few weeks. So interesting timing. But yeah, I guess from your perspective, as you said, it's conflicting.
I am quite conflicted. I ultimately think it's the right decision. I think the timing is weird. It's weird that, really, it could have been either 4 weeks ago, could have been last year, end of last year. It could have been at the end of this year. Coming off the back of an 80, it could have been at the end of the St Kilda loss. It's just so weird. I was not expecting it to be my Tuesday morning.
No.
Walking into knowing that the coach got sacked. I barely even know where to start with this, but ultimately, I just want to say off the bat that he's a premiership coach. He won our long-standing, he ended our drought, and that is, you can never take that away from him. So I have the utmost respect for him in that regard, and I understand that we have been absolutely not even bad since that premiership. Like the straight sets exits, we'll get through all that stuff, but it's just a weird list of unfortunate events that have happened under his tenure. And obviously he's not to blame for all of that stuff, but ultimately right decision, but he is the premiership coach and I have a lot of respect for him, and he was responsible for some of the best memories I've ever had as a football fan. So all the best to Simon. Now we're going to go year by year and just take a look at what his tenure was like and sort of try and sum it up at the end, right? So, and I think I don't want any of this to go because like I know when a coach gets sacked, it's like the biggest story of the year, and people are dancing on their grave, and I think that's like a bit in bad taste. We saw it with Adam Simpson last year. I think that was probably the biggest story of the year, like for us at least as Zero Hanger in terms of page views and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that was the highest viewed article or something for the year, right? Yeah. All right, so Goody comes in the club 2017 as the caretaker coach from Paul Roos.
The Messiah.
Right. At the time, I feel like everybody wanted Roosie to stay on at least another year. We weren't sure that Simon was going to be the premiership coach, is going to take that next step. Because, like, really, I can't remember. He was an assistant at Essendon, right?
Yeah, he also filled in during 2013. I looked this up just earlier today.
Yeah, right.
So I think he had 1 or 2 games there as caretaker coach. But yeah, he was at the Bombers before crossing to the Demons.
Yeah, and then so it comes in 2017. But I think I remember the expectation being that now that he's the senior coach, we should be making finals. We just lost out in finals. We finished 9th. I think that was that the year that we missed out by like 0.05%.
I think you lost to Collingwood in the last round or last. Yeah, it was very close.
I forgot it was Collingwood.
Yeah, I didn't.
Again, just a really tiny. I can't even say unfortunate, but it is an unfortunate thing that I can't even put down to Simon. But there's just a little bit of a pattern. Anyway, so 2018, we finally make finals for the first time in 10 years or something.
Overachieved.
Yeah. Overachieved?
Definitely overachieved. Especially to the prelim point.
Yeah.
So that was,
sorry,
I should have clarified. That was more my reference. Obviously, you knocked off Geelong.
Yeah.
Knocked off Hawthorn. So sent them packing in straight sets.
Yeah. That was a big deal at the time, I remember.
That was a huge deal.
Yeah, we were not expected to win that game.
No, and then you go over to WA, West Coast, new stadium, flying, obviously end up being premiers.
Yeah.
So that was a tough task, regardless of who went there.
But that sort of set in, I think from there, that's where the expectation really sort of started coming. And then 2019 happened. So we had a bunch of off-season surgeries, I'm pretty sure. I think Oliver went under the knife. I think even Petrarca had some. Gorney, I think, went under the knife or something. So we were just done in 2019, finished 17th, which is the lowest. Like, it's just incredible that looking at Goody's career as coach, he's finished top and he's finished 17th as well as 17th. Like, it really is truly the biggest roller coaster of a coaching career. So 2019, pretty much a write-off. 2020 comes. There was a little thing that happened in 2020. So I don't know how we want to assess 2020.
But again, just missing out on finals. So
missing out on finals.
You had the list, you had the cattle, you had the right gameplay and style implemented by Goodwin, but just needed some final tune-ups, which obviously led to probably the greatest year of your life.
Well, I mean, I don't know, it was the greatest year of my life. It was definitely the greatest night of my life. But no, but that's the thing. Like, so we wouldn't have 2021 if we didn't have 2020. Because I think I remember, like, obviously I've consumed every single piece of Melbourne media available to me after the premiership. But 2020 was the catalyst. Like, everybody was just sick of losing and being that team, being that Melbourne that everybody knows and loves, and finishing 9th or just being generally disappointing. And then we do the whole thing. We won the whole thing in COVID, in one of the hardest seasons. One of the hardest seasons to win a premiership. Simon Goodwin coaches us to that premiership. And you can say that, it's a COVID flag, whatever. Anybody would take that flag. And also, how come no one brings up the 2021 when everyone says that, the COVID flag doesn't count? 2020 was more of a COVID flag than 2021.
Yeah, it was more
right?
It was more impacted, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You had 16-minute quarters. That was barely a premiership. 2021, hardest premiership to win. Simon Goodwin did the hardest thing possible and won that flag in 2021.
Yeah.
On the road, away from the MCG, which we weren't actually that good at playing at the time. But again, can never thank Goody enough. And then this is where it starts to really, you go down, you hit the top of the roller coaster and then you sort of, you're on the way down. We went undefeated in 2022 for the first, 10 rounds?
10 weeks
or something?
And then a shock loss to Fremantle at the MCG.
Yeah.
It was a 38-point loss to the Dockers after leading by 26 at halftime.
Yes. Did you just Google this, or do you just remember that?
I remember it.
Why?
No.
Why?
No, I did look this up, and so the Demons were 10-0, flying, invincible, and then somehow the Dockers.
Yeah.
I mean, Lockie Schultz and Rory Lobb were still playing for the Dockers at that time too. So
yeah. And then this is also the year where Stephen May and Jacob Elsham have their infamous Entrecôte brawl. And this is where the sort of culture thing starts to really take shape in terms of, is there a culture problem at Melbourne? Is Simon Goodwin part of that? There were people, I remember 2022 is when people started calling for Goody, to be honest, because even at the start in that streak of 10 games or whatever, we didn't actually look that great. No. And you could sort of see that we were just getting wins on the board, and that I think towards the end of the year, it was pretty clear that most teams had found us out, I think.
Yeah, there'll be 20 minutes of football in those games. You go on this 5 or 6 goal burst. Yeah. Petrarca, Oliver do some crazy things, even Gawn.
Yeah.
And then you just hold off for the rest of the game.
Yeah, it honestly wasn't that fun to watch. 2023, I feel like was a better year to watch us play. I think it was a bit more dramatic, but we were winning, and we were winning I think it was a bit more fun.
Yeah.
But then again, that straight sets exit due to bad kicking. That has been the thing throughout all of I feel like throughout all of Goody's career, we just have not been able to kick in front of goals at all.
Pre and post premiership, there's been heaps of issues. But one thing I did notice, throughout those 2 years post the flag, was the on-field performances and I guess the ladder, which everyone says we're in a kind of a win-loss industry.
Yeah.
That papered over the cracks of what was going on.
Yeah.
So I understand, yes, everyone made notes of the Stephen May Melksham saga. There was a lot of things going off behind the scenes, but because Melbourne was still winning, there was probably no desperate need to go, okay, something's seriously wrong here. We need to fix it.
Yeah.
Up until maybe last year when you really fell off the perch and it's like, okay, we're out of finals. What's going on? What we desperately need to change something, which prompted a review into the football department, which saw, some of the other processes at the club be looked at. But because you're winning in those years and you're finishing top 4, it was almost like, well, we can almost get away with it.
Yeah.
To an extent.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the identity of us being an absolute basket case culture-wise off the field, but just eking out wins and because it is nice being the villain. As a Collingwood supporter, you would know that. Yeah. It is enjoyable, but I mean, when it goes to shit, it's real bad. And 2024, where do you even start with 2024? To be honest, that was probably the year that it probably should have been the end for Simon. But because we had, Petrarca almost dying, Oliver. and Oliver and all that sort of stuff, you can put that down to, well, it was just bad personnel issues, right? Rather than it was just bad injuries, and then you had all the stuff going on with Oliver and Petrarca. And then, of course, losing Brayshaw in 2023, we're still feeling the effects of that today.
That's understated, in my opinion.
That 2024 was probably the worst year, I reckon, as to be a Melbourne fan during Simon Goodwin's career, to be honest. Because, I think just... and again, just all these little things, unfortunate things that aren't exactly Goody's fault. It's not Goody's fault that Darcy Moore came in with a knee and nearly killed Petrarca on the field. It's not Goody's fault, what's happening with Clayton Oliver. Those things aren't Goody's fault, but it causes losses, and then you can't justify keeping on a coach that can't win games, basically. Yeah. And then we get to 2025. The finals are done. We suffer the worst three-quarter time comeback of all time.
46 points down.
46. Man, I hate that you know the facts.
But just this year, though, and it kind of started to look up, not necessarily from Melbourne. So 05 start.
Yeah.
Everyone was coming for Goodwin's heads. Somehow miraculously signed Pickett, which...
Yeah, that's puzzling.
It's almost old news to an extent.
Yeah.
But I think he's 2032 he's locked into. Maybe even a bit longer, maybe 2034.
Yeah.
But record deal at the Demons. And then how do they sell that to Pickett? Hey, Goodwin is your mate you want a premiership with. He's your coach, you're beloved. Great relationship. And then 12 weeks later, or a couple months later, he's out the door.
Yeah.
And now Pickett's there for 9 years.
I really want to know if that was part of the sell to Cozzy.
But how else would you? What else? If it have to be with Goodwin in mind.
I think the $12 million helps. Like, I think that was a pretty convincing part of the sell.
Yeah, true.
Like, and but that's the thing. No, you're right though, because I don't know if like, you know, money's money. He was going to get the money wherever he went, but you don't sign a 10-year contract if you think the team's going to be shit or you're not going to be contending.
Well, you don't sign it when he did if you know the coaches are going to be there.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't sign it until you've got a fair idea of who the next coach would be.
Yeah.
And spoken to him and seen what his intentions are with the club, with your role, especially for someone of a player of Pickett's ilk.
Yeah. Yeah. So it like...
And it's just to your point, that genuine roller coaster that you've gone from 0-5 start to signing Cozzy Pickett, the most exciting player in the competition, to a monster deal, record-breaking deal, to then 2 or 3 months later, walking the coach out the door.
I don't understand this football club. I just don't get it. I don't understand. What is going on? That's the roller coaster of Simon Goodwin's career. Man, it's such a weird emotional time at the moment. So from an outside perspective, so obviously I am way too biased. I'm too in it. Like, I'm in the eye of the storm at the moment as a D supporter. I think all of us are. What does it look like from the outside? How do you rate Simon Goodwin as a coach from the outside in?
Awesome, but now outdated.
Right.
So I think he's too one-woods.
Yep.
And it worked so well in the 2021 flag that, again, the forward line wasn't even questioned.
Yeah.
But
are you going to say contest and defense? Because...
maybe.
Sorry, I just had to...
No, but so they got the key pillars down back. They got Stephen May, you had Tom McDonald even down there, and you had Jake Lever. And then you had a raft of elite half-backs that could use the ball really well. You had the best midfield, and on paper still do. Now, again, they've all aged, not badly, but they've gotten older in 3 or 4 years' time. But even looking at that grand final, what turned that grand final around in 2021 against the Bulldogs was the fact of your centre clearance dominance. The 2021 prelim was just the sheer stoppage brilliance from Gawn, Petrarca, Oliver, Viney, and then even when Pickett would go through there or Sparrow would go through there, that keep that level at a premium. Once you reach the top of the mountain, and Melbourne quickly realised this, and Collingwood realised it last year, people figure out quickly. If you're the premiership or the reigning premier, people are going to go, you know what, we've got to beat that style because that's essentially the benchmark. And therefore, we have to do something vastly different or beat them at their own game. Now, generally speaking, you don't beat the reigning premier at their own game because they usually have developed a game style that just holds up, given the fact that they've won. So people do things differently. The last few years, it's gone to speed and attack, which is why Melbourne were relatively decent in 22-23 because their defense was so good and their midfield was so good. But it just showed how bad their forward line was working when they would score points of 60, but they would remain in games though, and they'd be in with shots, but they could not score. And the large shift, especially the last few years, and we've seen Collingwood do it when they won, we saw Brisbane do it when they won, they score at will.
Yeah.
And teams this year, they score will. Like, look at Adelaide, they're on top of the ladder at the moment. They're the highest scoring team. They're crazy good. They've got their 3 talls in the forward line. They've got a raft of smalls that are just dominant, and they just score 100 points plus at ease. Melbourne, although defense was probably key back then, especially when Richmond went on this like goal-kicking blitz and this chaos game, Melbourne were like kind of the opposite to that, the antidote to that. Yeah. And they were controlled, they were measured, and they also just bullied opponents because they had their midfield so well drilled and they were so cohesive in the way they played. But again, those type of trends don't last. And they never do, which is why I think the seasons 2022 and 23 are still ticks for Simon Goodwin. Yeah. It's on field especially, not worrying about off field. On field, they made top 4 twice. Realistically, they probably should have won at least 2 of those 4 finals. They ended up going straight sets, especially Collingwood, and probably the Sydney one as well. Actually, maybe the Sydney one or the Brisbane one. But again, so that's
should have smoked them.
Should have, and that stacks up.
Yeah.
But then when 2024 turns to a different style that demands your team being able to kick 90 points or more to win games as opposed to saving games, that's where Melbourne fell off the perch.
Yeah. No, I agree with all of that. I mean, and this year, I think if you paid attention to, Goody's messaging and his presses and stuff, which this was the first year I think I heard him admit, we probably relied too much on our defense. Like, we tried to emulate 2021 way too much, following up in those in 2022 and 2023.
Yeah.
But it's 2025.
Yeah.
Why didn't we hear that? I sound like David King at the moment. It's 2025. Why didn't we hear that in 2024?
Well, you hear recent premiership coaches, Craig McRae, Collingwood, and Chris Fagan. This is their messaging, especially to the external world, that they're trying to not recreate what they did in their flag-winning years. They're trying to make something new.
Yeah.
Now, because it was tried and true in 2021, and as I kind of alluded to earlier, the cracks were papered over by the fact that on field you were doing okay in the years following. But that's why it's such a steep drop-off, because the game has changed so quickly and rapidly in those 2-3 years that you haven't been able to keep up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it feels very negative because, and we are talking about a guy that has just been fired. And I still want to keep it as respectful as possible, but it's just a very emotional time. I can feel and I was on this very podcast a couple of weeks ago saying that, there was a bit of, because I had the premiership, there was a bit of a death of the ego thing going on. There was a bit of a beautiful nihilism to it in terms of I can always go back and watch that. But then when something like this happens, this is where all the emotions come up.
Yeah.
Like that Wanganeen Miller a goal thing a couple of weeks ago, I was fine with that. But then now that the actual change is happening, this is where we start to see a lot of the emotions boil over. So, but that being said, I truly did really love Goody as a coach. One of my favorite things with him, and as an emotional football supporter, one of the great things, and probably also one of the worst things about Goody, was that he was so stoic. Like, you listen to a Simon Goodwin presser, he does not give you anything. And that's really good when the heat's on him. And it was probably bad when, members want answers for things. But I actually always liked that approach. And I know that, again, just the things like he always backs his players and all that kind of thing that you expect from a head coach. Have you had any run-ins with Simon Goodwin thing?
Personally, no.
The only time...
Have you?
Yeah, the only time I've had a run-in with him, literally I was going for a run around the MCG. And this is, I think it was 2022, when we were on that 10-win streak or whatever. And I was running around the MCG because I live in Richmond. And then I saw him out of the corner of my eye, and I was obviously hyped up with the music and stuff. Had headphones in.
Listen to the Melbourne song, of course.
Probably. And I just saw Simon out of the corner of my eye, and I was like, "Goody, love your work, mate." And he just stared at me. He just gave me absolutely nothing. And I was like, I'm clearly a supporter, and I'm saying good things, but I don't know how loud I was either because I had noise cancelling headphones in and I was just running past him. Yeah, so he probably just thought it was a crazy person running and yelling at him. But again, one of my favorite Goody memories. And I really hope the relationship with Goody stays. He's a premiership coach. I don't want this to be a thing where he doesn't come back for the 10-year anniversary or whatever. And it is hard when you part with a premiership coach when they get sacked. But I don't know. I think like Adam Simpson, there's a different story with Adam Simpson, but it seems like he still has a decent relationship with West Coast, and
he returned for, I guess, a farewell moment.
Yeah,
I think a few weeks after. So I think it's going to be that level. It's also very sad, tough.
Yeah,
but I don't think it's on the terms of it's going to be a ruined relationship. I think it's just the time has come. Yeah, to maybe part ways.
Yeah, and I like the way that Brad Green has been pretty good as a D's member. He's been pretty good with all the messaging and everything since then. And I haven't read the email yet, but I have enough faith that the relationship's going to stay okay. Anyway, so I guess that means who replaces Simon Goodwin?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a bit eerie to go from quickly acknowledging someone's sacked to then, okay, who's going to fill his seat while it's still warm?
Yeah.
But I guess that's kind of the nature.
Yeah.
Especially in the footy industry. But you've got names, so Nathan Buckley, Adam Simpson, John Longmire.
Yep.
The first will probably come off the rank. Even Ken Hinkley, although he's still at Port Adelaide for the next few games or few weeks. But I don't see, obviously, Ken jumping straight into the hot seat straight away, nor do I see Longmire or Simpson. I think maybe a bit more time out of the game. Bucks has been floated as an early favourite, if that's even, if the market's even open for that. But there's a host of assistant coaches throughout the league that should be looked at. So you've got Corey Enright, Nigel Lappin, Scott Burns at Adelaide. Even like a Troy Chaplin, he's going to be the caretaker, so he might get a look in now after being assistant for many years. Danny Daly at Brisbane, never been in a coaching role, senior coaching role capacity, and has flagged interest in doing so. But I guess it kind of comes down to, and like, you know, Port Adelaide have done, and like West Coast have done, do you bring in an experienced coach with some runs on the board, or do you try with a brand new face with new ideas, I guess a modern outlook, so to speak, with a relatively young and impressive list? You guys have hit the draft quite well, I think, anyway, in the last few years, and you might see some of the premiership stars leave the club the next few years through retirement or other means, but I think there's enough youth there to work with that it's not all doom and gloom, despite obviously today being such a big day for the Melbourne Footy Club.
My biggest thing with this, just talking about replacement, so I was really angry when we let Aidan Cellini go to the Tigers, and obviously he was doing what's best for his career. But just seeing what he's already achieved at Richmond so far, and he was our midfield coach during that 2021 premiership. I really rated Aidan Cellini as a coach, and I think even before the Richmond job came up, like if you go through to Melbourne forums and everything, everyone was like, Cellini should probably be the next senior coach. So again, I mean, we maybe offer him $30 million or something to pry him away from the Tigers, but
bring him back home.
Yeah, it's really hard. I don't know, with the, like, as a D supporter, I just don't know, like, what I want.
Well, so where do you see your list? I guess that's kind of the main thing.
Well, that's the thing. So this is sort of I don't know if we need a full clean out in terms of getting rid. I think I said it yesterday on the Hitout, but like getting rid of guys like Petrarca, letting them go, like Oliver, Viney, I think I would be okay with. I'd love to keep Gawn. Like, if Gawn leaves, I'm burning the club to the ground. But I'm really happy with our young talent. So I'm really happy with, your Judd McVees, your Caleb Windsor, your Harvey Langfords, Cozzy Pickett, obviously. Even your sort of your Rivers and your Cade Chandlers and stuff.
Sparrow.
Sparrow. Like, really happy with that. It's literally just that sort of top end talent, that highest paid talent, and then Stephen May's only got a couple of years left in him and whatnot. But that's the thing. Like, I don't know if someone from the old guard, like your John Longmire or your Adam Simpson, and to an extent Nathan Buckley, are going to be the right ones. Nathan Buckley, though, I think because he's had time away from the game, I kind of view him as like a new coach. Like, he's been, 10 years since Collingwood?
10.
8?
2021.
What year are we in?
2021.
2021. Man.
He walked out the door.
This day has been years for me.
But still, it's to your point, 4 years, as you said, it feels like a long time. So
it does feel like a long time. I thought it was 10.
Yeah, it's just 4.
Wow. Anyway, you can see that this has truly broken my brain.
But to your point, it can, you need, that's why I don't think coaches like Simpson, Longmire are necessarily the options, because they've only had 12 months or less than out of the game. And that's not to say they're outdated, their ideas. I mean, Longmire was a coach, a grand final coach last year. Yeah. But I think there is a theory behind, taking time away from it and getting the game and taking the game into a different lens. Yeah. And I think only time can do that. Yeah. And that's not to say they won't put their hand up for the job, but I think the trajectory of an older coach like that would be, you're at the top, you go out of it for a bit and you might come back. But whereas an assistant coach, you kind of come through the ranks, hopefully with the club. Yeah. And I think I think first-time coaches as well, we've seen a few examples that they've kind of proven that they've worked. So McRae, Sam Mitchell,
Yep.
Josh Carl will get next year, but obviously Uze, as you mentioned as well. So Clarkson hasn't worked at North. Now, that's not all on him, but again, so there's...
But then Dimmer has a Gold Coast.
has a Gold Coast. So then again, there is theory, but I think it's more where you see the club list. So if you want a coach that will be there for 5 years and build, you might need a younger guy. But if you want like a Paul Roos and kind of, hey, get this list back to finals.
Oh my God, bring Brucey back. Bring Roosy back. Take him out of Hawaii. He's had enough time in Hawaii.
He's too tan.
Yeah, he's on ABC like every day. You may as well be the coach, mate.
Yeah.
All right.
The Messiah 3.0.
I would love, just as a bit of revenge for the Messiah thing, I would love to just steal Corey Enright from the Saints, because I know that they do have him touted as their next coach. Although I think Ross is going to be there for another year or 2
years.
Yeah, so wouldn't mind that. Again, I think we need a bit of time to think. I'm interested to see how Troy Chaplin does, but I don't think the caretaker getting into the senior coach role is ever really that good of an idea. No. And since Troy's been at the club for a long time, like it might just feel like it's just more of the same, like he's just been around for too long. And I do think that this is going to be the catalyst for a lot of change. I won't be surprised to see a couple of coaches and assistant coaches and football department staff move on after.
And players?
And players, yeah. That was a given.
Any to name a few?
Well, that's the thing. I
like, would you be devastated to see, just say, hypothetically, Christian Petrarca go to a contender?
I wouldn't see. I understand any of them leaving now.
Yeah,
and I understood it last year, but my thing with these guys, and I think it's going to become more apparent in the coming years, is that, and it already is kind of with Geelong, is that even though they're pushing 30, like what is 30 now? Like you look at Scott Pendlebury, you look at Steele Sidebottom, you look at Travis Boak, you look at all these guys, keeping them on isn't the worst thing in terms of like, because people are looking at it in terms of like, oh, they don't have that much football left in them in terms of like, years. But Petrarca's only 30?
Yeah.
Something like he's got another 6 years in him.
Yeah.
If he can fix the kicking, and I mean, he hasn't been able to fix it in like 5 years. So let him go.
And that again, it kind of comes down to what type of coach you want. So do you try to sell your superstars when they've got a bit of value?
Yeah.
And again, and commit to the regeneration, especially before Tassie come in.
Yeah, I would respect it, and I feel like with the timing of the announcement, like the timing of the decision, it looks like they're trying to get in before potentially Vossi gets sacked or before there's all the good coaches get stolen. So it feels like they're really ramping up to take a lot of action over the offseason, and I respect that. I don't want to just hire someone and then nothing else changes. That's all I can really think about at the moment. It's a very emotional day for me, Aidan.
I can understand.
Yeah. But yeah, what do you think?
In terms of what type of coach?
Yeah, from the outside in, what do you think they should... what should we do?
So I'm conflicted. So if you were to... So players like Gawn and Viney and Lever and May, players with value, if you were to lose some of them, and essentially the core of your club, I would then think you would bring in an experienced coach like a Buckley, who's done it before and can guide essentially the new generation through. If you were to keep all of your core together and have a genuine commitment from them to take this club back to, with some respect, you can have a young coach come in and they can use each other to bounce off and kind of ease it through. So Richmond, argument's sake, Uze, brand new coach, first timer. He still has premiership players in Broad, in Vlosten. He has midfielders like Taranto, Hopper, Prestia, Tom Lynch up forward. Now, again, it doesn't have to be 15 players that are 30 or older, but there's guys there that are part of the fabric of that football club that have already started helping that new generation come through. Yeah. And they've got a younger voice who can relate to the younger players, as well as use those older guys in ways to lead the next generation through.
Yep.
If you were to then gut all of your senior players, so send Petrarca to another club, Oliver to another club, Gordon miraculously finds a new home, I would then suggest you might need someone like a Nathan Buckley, who's coached before, who's tried and true, grand final coach, multiple finals series coach, that can take the next generation through and lead them and show them how to be an AFL footballer, how to be a professional athlete. Because there's no older guys there, or not as many guys there with the same gravitas as a Gorn, as a Petrarca in that hypothetical scenario to do that for them.
Yeah.
So therefore, your coach would be a bit more authoritative in terms of this is how you're going to do it, in terms of being the best player you can be.
Yeah. Yep. No, I like that. I think the key things that need to happen is Gorn needs to stay. Like, if Gorn leaves, I've just written Gorn down. Gorn has to stay. I'm happy to get rid of whoever as long as it doesn't rip out the culture or the heart of the club. So if a new coach comes in or whoever comes in and says that, we can afford to lose Petrarca, but it doesn't, rip a hole through the fabric of the club, then that's fine. Because, he's not even performing that well at the moment anyway. Like, I don't want a North Melbourne situation where they just get rid of all their core senior talent and then look where they are now.
So that's what they did in 16. They got rid of everyone, club legends. And again, they might have been past their best or maybe due to retire, but they got rid of way too many, way too quickly. They didn't stagger them. Yeah. And which is what Collingwood are attempting not to do. And I would say for Melbourne to not do that.
Yeah. I mean, or we go scorched earth and just burn the whole thing to the ground. But
merge with Tassie.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's enough. I'm not going to be able to say anything constructive anymore. But
you did well for actually fronting up.
Yeah, and to be fair, all these opinions might change in the next 48 hours and coming weeks and stuff too. But it's just it's a very emotional time as a D's fans. Shout out to all the D's fans that listen to this. I know I get a lot of feedback from the D's fans because they know that I'm a big Demon supporter. And yeah, thank you, Simon Goodwin. I think he deserves a massive round of applause. He deserves a lot in terms of, he's going to get his $1 million payout. He deserves all of that.
I think a side note as well, he lasted he was a coach for 9 years.
9 years.
So in the modern day.
9 years of my life.
Yeah.
I'm 31.
In the modern day, coaches don't necessarily last that long.
Nah.
So
not
only a nod to the premiership and the ripple effect that has had on Melbourne as a football club, but to last almost a decade in the modern game where results are needed immediately, and if they're not, you're almost shown the door just as quickly.
He truly had the backing of the board until about 2 days ago. Oh. But yeah, no, in all seriousness, thank you, Goody. Love ya. All the best in the future. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And thank you, Aidan. And let's see how this goes.